Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to host this edition of Outlook Business Master Speak webinar series brought to you by our presenting sponsors, Hyperlink Infosystems, and co-sponsor RR Solutions. Today, we have with us a very special guest, Mr. Ravi Gilani, founder and managing consultant, Goldratt India. Goldratt India is a management consulting firm that enables clients to achieve sustainable improvement in profits through the application of Dr. Elihu Goldratt's theory of constraints. We all know of the popular adage, cash is king. But today, in a post-COVID world, the importance of cash has become all the more critical. Who better than Mr. Gilani, who can share his insights as to how companies and small businesses can navigate through this period of uncertainty by making the most of what businesses have. Mr. Gilani, thank you for taking your time out. But before we deep dive into the challenges that corporate India and small businesses are grappling with, could you give our audience a heads up on what exactly is the theory of constraints and how relevant is its application in business?
Okay, thank you. Theory of constraints was created by Dr. Goldratt way back in the early 80s. The concepts are ridiculously simple. What it says, a system is not sum total of parts. The system's performance is governed by the performance of its weakest link, what we call constraint. For any organization, let's say manufacturing organization, there at any time cannot be more than one physical constraint. And what are these four physical constraints? Either you do not have enough orders. Typically, we people say there's no demand, or we have a shortage of capacity, manufacturing capacity, or we have a shortage of input material or services, or once in a while, today it is more common, we don't have adequate cash to buy the raw materials. Now, at any given time, we will always have only one of these, not more than one at any given time. Now, unless we can focus on the weakest link's performance, output of the entire system cannot increase at all other than a statistical fluctuation. Let me give you an example. If we have shortage of orders, increasing more capacity, we still will not be able to sell anything. If we have a capacity constraint, then getting more orders or more material or more money, unless we invest in expanding the capacity, will not help us. Similarly, if we have a raw material shortages, increasing manufacturing capacity, order generating capacity is of no consequence. Unfortunately, when you are in a cash constraint, as the case today, the situation is extremely dicey. When you are in a cash constraint, you can go down or up either side very, very quickly, because cash constraint impacts non-linearly, as we are seeing in the COVID-19. When we started the lockdown, we had only 500 cases. Today, we are getting 500 cases in one city alone, because it is having a exponential impact, non-linear impact. Cash constraint also has an important thing. Like we can go down very rapidly if deployed properly. If we use the right things, then we can reverse it also very rapidly. So this is a brief I can explain to you about theory of constraints.
Let's take a short break, and we'll be back. So before we get into more details, I just had this question in mind. Are corporates, generally corporates or businesses, tend to take their eyes off cash flows when the going is good in some sense, and when only thing comes to a head, that the whole focus then kind of shifts towards cash flows and look at your receivables. And now today we have come to a situation where you have absolutely zero sales for the past 3 months. You have got receivables which are piled up. So how does businesses, corporates, come out of the situation?
A few things I can say. First, I'm starting with the immediate last 2 months. One of my clients had almost zero sale, zero. Yet it was cash positive, never before as in these 2 months. Now, this may be a surprise. The reason is, the fundamental reason is, people behave the way they are measured. And now I'm making some very strong statement. I know people will like to kill me for that, but I will state, even if it is politically incorrect. Most top management in the world, they're financially illiterate. I'll prove it in 1 minute. Ask any CEO, what has been your sales last year, financial year 1920? He would have it on his fingertips. And he will immediately start lamenting that but for 1 week of COVID, because the lockdown happened around 23rd, 24th of March, we would have done this, this, this. So he's talking about sales. Ask him what has been his profit before tax or after tax. The chances are many will say either we don't know or it is being worked out, or even after 2.5 months have passed by when the year had been closed and there was no work. Even if some of the people who are able to share, because their accounts have been finalized, what has been the profit, ask them what is your free cash flow, they will have no clue. And it's not only in India. I'm taking you 15, 17 years back. A company you might have heard about called Enron.
Right.
1 month before Enron went belly up, 1 month before, its chairman, its managing director, and its CEO and its CFO, they did not know that within 1 month they'll run out of cash and they'll have to declare for bankruptcy. The reason is, almost every company I go, I ask them what do they measure. They measure a lot of things. But they do not either measure cash flow or give very little time to discuss this. Left to me, I will only measure cash flow and nothing else. And let me give you a little bit more on this. First of all, cash flow is the easiest thing to measure. Easiest thing. How do you measure? You check how much money do you have in the bank at the beginning of the period. And now you check how much money you are left with at the end of the period. If at the end of the period, more money is in the bank, you have a positive free cash flow. If you have less, it is negative free cash flow. Now, I'll give you a more complicated answer, not very complicated, but I must explain that. How do companies calculate free cash flow? It is profit after tax, less any increase in working capital, less any investment in that. This is the typical way we measure it. But the simple way I have already explained to you. If you have not taken loans or repaid the loans, then free cash flow is the easiest thing. Check the money in the bank today and the check money in the bank tomorrow, whatever the difference, positive or negative, is your free cash flow. Let me explain a little bit more on this. If you don't make profits for long, it's like cancer. You will die eventually. But if you don't have cash, it's like a heart attack. You will do now. Because if you don't pay your employees' salaries, if you don't pay to the bankers the installment or the interest, if you don't pay your vendors their payments on time, they will stop supplying you and you will close down. There's no alternative to it. So first, the very first thing every company should do tomorrow morning, not day after. Every owner, every CEO, every MD should start measuring free cash flow. I've given you 2 methods.
Right.
Now, let's move on to the next thing. You said it's very difficult to get money from our customers. I do not agree. The real problem is when we don't know a thing, we think nobody knows how it can be done. This is the biggest mistake. I was attending another webinar on this same subject. So I was asked, customers don't pay. I said, no, you do not know how to get the money from your customers. There's a huge difference. So in one of my customers who had almost zero sale in the last 2 months, it generated 30 crores of collections in the last 2 months. Inventory remained the same. They did not have any overdue payables to your vendors, so they remained the same. They had zero sales, so whatever was their fixed expenses in these 2 months was their loss. Yet they increased their cash by 14 crores because out of the 30 odd crores what they got, 15 odd crore was the loss, and another 1 crore money they had to pay to some of their vendors, etc., service providers. So net result was cash in the bank went up by 14 crores. Now, how did they go and collect it? Of course, nobody gives you money very easily.
Right.
You have to give something that, look, if you don't pay us, then frankly, tomorrow we will not be able to service you. You want to continue our relationship, then it has to be done. Not only this company, I can give you the name of another company also. And this time it's in, I cannot give you the name, but I will tell you in what sort of a company it is. It's in large infrastructure projects. As soon as this COVID hit, and because they're in infrastructure and they were allowed as essential services, and customer wanted to complete the project fully, so they immediately put it that, look, you have to pay all the money you owe us, due and overdue both. Or let me say, not overdue and overdue both. Otherwise, we will not start anymore.
Right.
They got the money within 24 hours. Often we don't know how to do the things. That does not mean nobody can get it. So first thing is, you can have influence on your receivable, number one. If you go with the assumption the other person does not have money, I don't agree. That is bullshit. I'll explain to you. There's a large motorcycle company in the country. It came with a Japanese collaboration in 1984. You can guess the name. As soon as the lockdown happened, it made a statement, we will not pay our vendors. They were saying force majeure as a clause because
Right.
our dealers are not paying us the money.
Correct.
Its CFO, who was my colleague at one time in my previous company, I asked him, what's the problem? Don't you have money? He said, our money is blocked either in interest corporate deposits, or we have invested in shares and we did not put enough money in the bank as free cash. Now, another company also in the same segment, taking a clue from this company, they also decided we'll not pay our vendors. Why? What happened to the money you had continued to accumulate for the last 20, 30, 40 years? The fact of the matter, I'm now jumping to another question. Why are we people in a cash constraint? If I'll give you the answer, you will laugh at me, but that's a fact. Like we keep some money for the rainy day. Keshav, do you keep some money for the rainy day or not?
Yes, everyone does.
How many days or months or years will you keep? Supposing you don't get a salary, how many days can you manage?
6 months.
6 months. You have given me this answer. Now, why can't the companies keep some amount of money? I will share on this data something, how different companies are doing. Maybe somebody will keep for 3 months, somebody will keep for 6 months, somebody will keep for a year. A few years back, Narayan Murthy was on record that Infosys keeps 1 year of cash outflow in reserve should they do not have an income for 1 year. And something even more, as recent as 1 month before, Warren Buffett is on record that they have $135 billion in free cash. They said, we don't want to depend upon anybody's mercy or kindness. We want to live on our own. The problem lies in our business schools, in our financial circles. Keeping cash in very ready cash is considered a crime or sin. It is stupidity of the highest order not to keep any cash reserve. That is the prime reason. COVID-19 only exposed our underbelly. COVID-19 is not the cause. It just showed up a mistake we have been doing. So first, every company in the world, it will have to decide for itself, Should you keep for 3 months, 6 months? For example, you have kept for 6 months, correct? I keep for next 20 years. I don't want to, what you call, go to anybody and ask for money. I have kept a reserve for 20 years. So that if I'm assuming in 20 years is a good enough. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Everyone has to decide for himself. Okay, coming back to very specific. First thing every company should start measuring is free cash flow. Now, free cash flow has two components, profit and working capital. Now, profit, I know, while I will come to, it can still be increased. I'll come to that little later. But easier thing is reducing your working capital. In working capital, there are three elements: receivables, payables, and inventories. Both in receivables and payable, one outside party is involved. But there's one thing in which no outside party is involved, that is inventory. Like, I have difficulty in getting cash coming into the company, but I should have full control in cash going out of my hand. Do you agree?
Right.
So first thing they can do immediately is to see how they can cut their work in progress. Work in progress is very easy to do. Most often we try to use our capacity to the fullest. This is the most stupid thing.
Just take a short break, and we'll be back.
RR Gifting for memorable brands. Call now.
Most of the time, at this moment, when you have a cash constraint, trying to use your capacity to the fullest is most stupid thing. Is this clear? So first thing is, have few jobs, but once you start, finish them very fast. There's another reason, I'll come to that in a few minutes from now. First thing is you should reduce your WIP. Second thing is reduce your raw material or input inventories. It is possible to do so. In the past, we again made a major mistake. Almost every company does it, what we call local optimization. If they have to get a material which gets consumed 1 ton is used, let's say in 1 month, they will get 10 tons. Why? Can you guess the reason? Make a guess.
To ensure continuity, and so that as if they expect more orders.
No. It is to utilize the capacity of the truck fully. I want to save freight cost. So I want to use a bigger truck of 10 ton rather than getting a part load in 1 ton. Most of the time, same thing when you're importing the material. I want a full container, which might last for 2 years, but I will take full container to save freight cost. Now, important thing is, we don't know whether after 2 years you will be alive or also not alive.
Right.
There are many things a company can do to reduce its raw material inventory. Just to give you an idea, in one of my clients, we could reduce our raw material inventory by almost 67%. We could bring it down to 1/3 in about 18 months' time by using some very basics, nothing complicated. We could do that. So assumption that I do not know how to reduce RM, okay, I'll help anybody. I don't want to charge any fees. I'll give them this thing, a very simple way, how they can reduce their RM, how they can reduce their WIP. Now something more. When you reduce WIP, your cycle time to manufacture goes down. Now, one good thing is going to be there in the near few days. Either we will have famine of orders or feast of orders. It will happen. You might have noticed also. Look, at some time, if you have been ordering groceries online, sometimes you had a queue of 2 or 3 days.
Right.
And sometimes they can deliver immediately.
Right.
How come? Because the entire system is right now in a chaotic environment. So if you're in a chaotic environment, what we can do, when we get an order, we service it fast. That is the requirement. And how do we do that? Once you develop a capability to manufacture or service fast, your WIP comes down. You don't have to keep so much finished goods inventory also, because finished good inventory is a function of the time you take to manufacture. If you take very little time to manufacture, you don't have to keep finished good, because by the time the customer orders, if you can manufacture it to start it, why do you have to keep any finished goods inventory? So coming back, once again, I'm repeating 2 steps. Start measuring your free cash flow. That is priority 1. Start measuring the components of free cash flow. First, let me say inventories. Within the inventory, start measuring RM, WIP, and FG. Start reducing WIP. The need to keep so much FG will automatically reduce. As soon as you reduce your WIP, actually you will find your RM inventory will go up. Hence, you don't have to buy any more money from outside in the next couple of weeks or months. Once again, your cash outflow has reduced. Now comes to the receivables. I'll give you a few tips here. First of all, in most companies, wherever I have gone, when we say how much is your receivables, there are never a one answer. There's one answer which finance and accounts tell, and one answer which the marketing people tell. So first step would be, please reconcile within your own company how much money your customers owe. That's number 1. When today we have less work, why can't the finance and sales people come to an agreement? Is that possible? What do you think?
Yes.
Okay. Now let's go to the next thing. Once you got within your company the reconciliation, now start reconciling with your customer. Okay, they don't have money. We'll talk later. But
Right.
at least have a reconciliation with them that how much money they owe you and how much money you have to get. Regularly, you are so busy, you don't have the time. I have seen companies who have not reconciled for the last few years itself, forget about few months. Third thing, prepare a list of all the bills you have issued to your company, a customer, and show how much money was received on time and how much money was delayed. Send it to the CEO of that customer company or the very high authority, so that let them have a look at it, that it's not a one-off situation. Most companies, even in a normal period, will not pay you the money unless you insist till the very last day. They will always pay you a few days later than the agreed credit period. Why should we allow that? Now, another area, people always are afraid, specifically salespeople, that if we start demanding too much from the customer, he will stop giving us order. This is stupidity. No customer is doing you a favor by giving an order. Similarly, no supplier is doing us a favor by giving us material. It meets the requirement of both. All we are asking our customers that whatever were the agreed terms, you should honor them. We should honor our things, and you should honor your thing. Are you clear about it?
Right.
Now, one more thing which we can do. Most companies are unable to deliver their material on time. You may recall, almost 6 years back, I had written an article for you, 6 years back, that while our quality is reasonably good, but on one area, we are still not doing a good job, that is deliveries. Most companies do not measure their on time in full delivery performance. Please start measuring it on time and in full. This is customer satisfaction. Do you deliver 100% on time? Every 1 day late is too late. 1 piece short is too short. If a customer has ordered 10 items, you have to supply all 10 in full quantity what was you have agreed, not 1 piece short in 1 SKU. As soon as you start measuring it, you will see some interesting things. Most companies' performance by this standard, the way I'm telling you, is less than 10%. Most do not even measure it. Those who measure it also, it will be 10, 12%, nothing more than that. Now comes another common complaint. These days, there's no demand. That's again bullshit. There is demand. Already the orders you have, if you're unable to deliver them on time, getting more orders, how will that help you? Is this clear? So anybody who is complaining that I have everything, but I have a shortage of orders, okay, if you have a shortage of orders, start delivering on time. That's all. Now here comes once again some wrong behaviors of optimizing locally. They want to have large batches. In large batches, you delay what is required today, but you are manufacturing what will be required 1 month later, just to take advantage of the machine utilization. Stupidity. So actually, for most companies, even today, I would say they don't have shortage of orders, because whatever orders they have they delivered it on time? Now comes the last thing, something very significant which I invented almost 19 years back because of a client. I'm going to give you the full story about that. Many times you have a severe cash shortage. You have orders. You have no delayed orders. You have enough people to work it out. You have suppliers who can pay you give you the material, but they are demanding cash upfront. Now, this is a concept called cash velocity. I'll explain. For a simple way, let us say we have decided that we'll run our company for the next couple of months. Our input material cost, let's say, is about 50% of sale value. So when I'm short of money, what it means is, if I can borrow 50 rupees for something from someone, convert into a finished goods, sell it, and collect the money within 1 month, all put together, what has happened? I'm able to convert 50 rupees to 100 rupees in 1 month. Supposing the same money I would have kept in a bank, who also gives me 100 rupees after 1 month, what is my rate of interest from that company?
That's 100%.
Please tell me.
100%.
This is what I call cash. This I call cash velocity. Now I'll explain a little bit more. Let us say in this particular case, our cash to cash cycle time is not 1 month, but 2 months. So now I'm getting 50 rupees after 2 months. So this time I'll calculate the compound rate of interest, not simple rate of interest. It will come to 41.4%. Approximately it will come 41.4%. I call it cash velocity. I'm not considering any fixed expenses allocation, any nonsense. Look, I'm short of money. Now let me tell you something very interesting. Typical ordinary vegetable seller who comes near our home to sell on his cart, he typically buys the material at 50 rupees a kg and generally will sell at 100 rupees per kg. And this poor fellow does not have money to buy the material in the market. From the mandi, he has no money. He borrows it. Do you have an idea what is the rate of interest he would be paying to the lender? Any idea?
It would vary anywhere between 25 to 30% or more, maybe.
25 to 30% what?
Interest
Per
on
year?
whatever.
Per year, per month, per week, per day? Tell me that.
That's per year, I'm saying.
It is ranging between 1 to 10% per day. The concept of month is not there. Concept of year is not there. Now let me explain to you, and its relevance when I'm going to talk in a few seconds. Let us say he has borrowed money of 100 rupees from a money lender at 10% per day. 10% per day. How much he has to return at the end of the day?
He has borrowed 100 at 110. He has to
pay 110.
Right.
Generally, he sells at twice the price in the market. Generally. So if he's able to generate even 150 rupees, he still makes money. He's not literate. He's not financial savvy. He's not MBA. He's not a CA. He's not a cost accountant. But this he knows more than many other people. There was a company called Indo-Asian Fuse Gear Limited. I'm talking about the year 2001. They had exactly the same thing. Their raw material or variable cost was 50% of the selling price. And their cash to cash cycle time used to be 3 days to manufacture, and they used to sell in the what you call retail market, dealers. And normal collection period was 60 days. And they used to get very rarely money on time. But let me say, even if they were getting the money on time, their cash to cash cycle time was 63 days, and they did not have cash to uh, fulfill the orders. They had a lot of orders. So the owner came to me. I told him, we will sell the material at 50% lower price. Sorry, my mistake. Their raw material cost was 40% of the selling price. So we'll sell at the 50% price reduction, but money upfront. He said, by this we'll close even earlier. Why do you want to close down so early? I said, let's do the calculation on paper. Now I'm doing it for everyone. It is very simple. They have a shortage of cash. If they can get 40 rupees more after 63 days, how much money will they get?
40
100?
rupees. Yeah.
40 rupees of raw material they buy, and then they produce in 3 days and sell it and collect the money after 60 days. So in 63 days, how much money will they get? 100 rupees, correct? Now, I've told him that let's sell it at 50 rupees, but payment upfront, no credit. So here is the method now. The manufacturing time will take 3 days. And I said, even if that person has given me the check, it may take another 3 days to get me money in the bank. So my cash to cash cycle time now goes down to 6 days. Do you agree?
Right.
But how much money I'm getting? After I put 40 rupees, I pay 50 rupees. I get 50 rupees after 6 days. Do you agree?
Right.
Now look at the ratio. Money is getting multiplied every 6 days by 25%. Are you clear?
Yeah.
40 becomes 50 in 6 days. So how much 50 will become in another 6 days? It will become 62.5, 25% of 50. Another 6 days, it will be in another approximately 15 and a half days, which will become 78. So in 18 days, 40 has become 78. And in 63 days, how many 6-day cycles are there? 10 times. 10. There are 10 cycles of 6 days.
Right.
So we worked out that if we have 40 rupees with us, in 60 days, it will increase to 9.58 times. As against 2.5 times, 40 was becoming 100. Now here, same 40 was becoming almost 10. 4 times more, even though we are selling at 50% lower. This company adopted such a principle. They sold a part of their capacity at such a price. They got out of the cash constraint, and eventually they sold out to a very large company at a very huge profit, a French company, Legrand or something like that. They sold out in about 10 years, Legrand. So I'm giving you an actual example. Same thing. Today I'm now giving further how to reduce your receivables. For most companies, cash velocity, in my experience, ranges between 20 to 40% a month. 20 to 40% a month. So if they have to give discount of 5% per month, 5% per month to their customers to collect the money faster, should they do or not do?
Should, ideally.
But yes, at Jindal Steel and Power, we did this. We sorted out many issues. Another area, you have legal disputes. You have legal disputes which go for years together. Hence, I'm recommending them settle no matter what the settle. Just settle. I'll give you an example. Let us say cash to cash velocity of a company is 30% per month. And a case has been pending for more than 2 years, and you're expecting that it will take another 2 years before you get your amount if you're lucky. I'm saying you settle at 25% of the current your claim. 25%. Most will agree. Now 25%.
But that's just one question on that. If it's a statutory due, it may not be so easy for you to kind of get an kind of an.
One moment. Well, stop. I'm talking from customer receivable.
Okay.
I'm not talking statutory dues.
Okay.
I'll give you something more on statutory. Good that you reminded me. I'll give you a statutory dues also. Now 25%, 25 rupees, you put in a bank deposit at 30% per month. Approximately in 3 months time it will double. Do you agree?
Right.
So 25 becomes 50 in 3 months time. Another 3 months time it is already 100. It is 6 months. You will be struggling for next 2 years paying the lawyer's fees and still not sure whether you get any money.
True.
Same thing on your obsolete material. You will not sell it because it is below my cost. That nonsense cost is nothing to do. I have worked with companies and saved them only by selling their scrap. Just by selling the scrap, you need very little money to turn it around. In fact, I'll send you my links on the some videos on the YouTube where this has been discussed in more detail. You can put it there on your along with this, so people who want to know more about it, they can learn from there. So coming back, it is possible to reduce your receivables. But first thing, which is more fundamental in the mind, when people say it can't be done, this is a big problem. This is a psychological problem. When you say it cannot be done, it means two things. I know that I cannot do, which is okay. But I know in the whole world, nobody can do it. This is the wrong thing. Just because you don't know, that does not mean it cannot be done. So coming back, on statutory dues, I'll give a tip. I'm sure if people hear it, the government will do something to correct it. I'll just prove it in a few minutes. Most of the time, do you have something called month-end syndrome? Have you heard this?
No.
The sale in the last week of the month is almost 30, 40, 50% of the whole month. Now, supposing you are dispatching something on the 30th of the month. Let's say you're dispatching on 30th of June. You have to pay in the normal times is GST of 18%. I'm just taking 18% by the 20th of next month. Do you agree? I'm suggesting to all my clients, do not dispatch in the last 3 days. Do not dispatch any. If the client is okay, don't dispatch in the last 3 days. Why? You delay getting your payment by 3 days maximum. So don't dispatch on 28, 29 and 30th. Instead, dispatch on the 1st. What is the advantage? We get 30 days more to pay the GST. It's something like street smart, nothing rocket science. But startingly, this can only happen once you remove your primary parameter of sales and profit as the prime parameter. If you have a cash flow as a prime parameter, then there's no problem. Are you getting this point?
Right.
Okay. So it is possible to reduce your receivables. It is possible to reduce your inventories. And now let's say we are still short of cash. We are still short of cash. Now, why can't we borrow? Most companies who are struggling for cash, they take a long time negotiating with the banks or the money lenders to haggle on the rate of interest. To my mind, it is stupidity. How much rate of interest can you charge? I mean, let's say I'm taking an extreme case, 20%, 24% per annum. Do you agree with me?
Yeah.
How much will you reduce it? If your cash velocity is upward 30%, every day you waste time in getting this money, you're losing at the rate of 30% per month. Instead of getting a reduction of 1 or 2 or 3 or 5% per annum, you're losing 30% per month. What can be more stupidity than that? Same thing with weekend vendors. If some vendors have enough money, tell them I'm ready to pay you 2% more price, give me 1 month extra credit, 3% per month. If your cash velocity is significantly higher than what you're offering to either to your client or you to your lender or you to your vendor, go ahead and do it. I'm not saying just give anything. You know how much is your cash velocity. You have to take a decision. If money is available, let's say at 5% per month, you take it today 5% per month with a clause that I can return without any what you call early payment penalty. Tomorrow you are able to get at a lower price, lower rate of interest, return this and exchange that. That all can be done.
But that the point that you said that, you know, without a prepayment penalty, it might work in case of a big guy, I mean, big company, I mean, with the kind of loan that they borrow. But if it's a small SME kind of a guy, the banks will not even, first of all, entertain. And if he says that you lend me without a prepayment penalty, so the bankers will say you can take a walk. There are 100 more out there who will, you know, listen to what I have to.
Once again, Keshav, we are only going by our experiences. You are talking about banks. Have you heard of NBFCs? Have you talked of small money lenders? Go ahead. Who's saying? I'm saying go give them 24% per month. Sorry, per annum. What's your problem? They don't have a prepayment and penalty or anything like that.
They're saying alternative sources of funding. Why only look up to the banking system?
I didn't say banking. I said go to a money lender. Even your friends will give you. Supposing somebody says, I'm ready to pay you 50% per year, 4% per month. How many of us will be tempted? Specifically, the people who trust us, will they be tempted or not?
Yes.
Now, let me give you one important parameter. I made this statement way back in 2008 at Las Vegas. At that time, there was a meltdown, you may recall, 2008. I was making a presentation once again, at that time also on cash constraint. There is no shortage of money in the entire world. There's a shortage of trust. That is the problem. There's no shortage of money. Money has not gone anywhere. Nobody has burnt the notes anywhere. Banks who had given the loans are not ready to roll over because they don't have confidence. Vendors are refusing to supply you more material because they lost confidence on you. So money problem can be solved. Now let me come back to one important parameter called demand. Now I have a belief. People pay money when we solve their problems. Do you agree?
Right.
So I'll modify this. People pay us money when we solve their pains. Correct? Now, the reverse is also true. Whenever there is a pain, there's an opportunity to make money. Do you agree?
Right.
Tell me, in the entire world, is the total amount of pains, in your opinion, are they going up or going down?
Going up.
What have you just said? If pains are going up, opportunity to make money is also going up.
Right.
So it is possible that current pains may shift, but overall amount of pains in the entire world are not going down. I'll prove it in 1 minute. During the lockdown period, Did you add any house help or you did all the stuff yourself?
Ourselves.
Now you understand what is the pain of washing your utensils, mopping your home, preparing the food, chopping the vegetable, etc., etc.
Precisely.
Tell me now. Now I'm saying, supposing I start a service, I certify that the person who is coming is certified corona free, and that person is excellent. How much money you will be ready to pay? Will you pay him or her 1,000 rupees for 1 day's work? Yes or no?
Yes.
See, the
But
opportunity is
1,000
there.
again is a question of your ability to pay. What you pay in months, it may be for it, you are. It's like a sweeping statement, right? Who can afford to?
Yeah, but a lot of us who are earning more than 1 lakh of rupees, they can afford. What's the big deal about it? And you're talking about afford. In any case, your expenses going to the malls, your expenses on going out, petrol, etc., all have vanished. What's the problem? Today you are spending only on basic food stuff. What else? So I was
But
just
that's
giving you.
that's specific that your salary has not been cut. If income,
I'm coming on salaries also. I'll answer to that also. IT couples. I'm now saying IT couples. You know what is the biggest problem of all IT couples, at least in India? I do not know much about abroad. What is the pain? They work very hard. They both have come late in the evening. Who will do the household work? For them, if they can get a reliable service, 1,000 rupees per day, what's the problem? Any worthwhile IT guy must be getting 50,000 to 1 lakh of rupees. If both couple is earning, what is their problem? Do you know most of the time, IT couples in the normal times go hungry? Why? Tell me, why do they go hungry?
because no one would have been in a position to cook or do
Both
the
are
work.
fully tired. Why does the lady should prepare? She says, I've worked as hard as you, so why it is on me to prepare the food? And both are tired. Despite the fact they're earning a lot of money, somehow they are not able to get good food. The typical pains of IT, who will get the clothes washed, who will get it ironed, and all that stuff. Provide the service, you make money. I'm only saying, so long there are pains, money can be made. Now let me come back to hardcore stuff. How do small companies manage? Now here is actual case study I'm sharing. I'm not giving a hypothetical one. A client of mine, they increase the salaries of their workers by 7%. Specific data, 7%. For the lower and middle management, they did not give any rise. And whatever was the increase in the salaries of the workmen, they asked the senior management to take a proportionate cut to compensate for that. Now tell me, in this company, where the senior people have cut their salaries, lower and middle management remain the same, but workers have increased. What do you think in these companies that, and not one person laid off, not one person laid off. What do you think will happen to the ownership of the employees for this company?
It will go up. There will be increased sense of.
And one more example, Asian Paints, you might have heard about it.
Yeah.
Asian Paints have increased the salaries of all its employees. Great. So coming back, my recommendation, first condition, no layoff. If through your medium, I'm saying, if any company wants to turn around, I'm ready to help them, not necessarily free, but my only condition is no layoff.
To come to some very quick questions, which you can, like you said, you can address the pain point. So right now, the the smaller guys, if you say, are looking at, what was once a fixed cost has now become variables, taking us laying off, people, and maybe shutting off some part of the operations, or maybe exiting the business. So is there any other way now that some have taken this moratorium that the banks are giving? So what else can a small business or medium-sized business do to come out of this crisis?
देख यार, ऐसा है ना, यानी ये क्राइसिस क्या है पहले वो समझना बड़ा जरूरी है।
हम्म,
सेल मुझे नहीं चाहिए, मुझे प्रॉफिट नहीं है, मुझे कैश चाहिए। कंपनी अभी भी सेल और प्रॉफिट को चेस करेंगी, मरेंगे। भैया मैं कह रहा हूं, तुमको बैंकों को तुम्हारी सेल से कोई कनेक्शन नहीं है, वो कहते हैं मेरे पेमेंट टाइम से करते रहो। करेक्ट
करेक्ट।
जो हमारे एम्प्लॉयज हैं उनको भी कोई तकलीफ नहीं है, भाई तनख्वाह तो ये टाइम से देते रहो, तुम्हारे वेंडर्स को भी टाइम से पैसा देते रहो, कुछ नहीं चाहिए। और ना मॉरेटोरियम इज लाइक ए पेन किलर। गवर्नमेंट ने आपको टेम्परेरी कुछ दिनों के लिए पेन किलर दे दिया। आर यू क्लियर?
राइट।
बट डिजीज जो गई नहीं है, डिजीज है कि हमने कभी कैश के ऊपर फोकस नहीं किया। समझाता हूं क्या हुआ। जितने पैसे आज तक कमाए उसको हमने एक्सपेंशन में लगा दिए। क्यों लगाए एक्सपेंशन में? हमने सारा का अब तुम भी जितना सेव करते हो, डू यू इन्वेस्ट ऑल ऑफ देम? जो कुछ सेव करके रखते हो? So what happens in the wrong pursuit of growth in sales and profits? Companies have exposed them to the bone. They have to correct it now. Now, I'm saying, if required, we'll reduce the salaries of the people, including the workmen. I'm ready to do that. People will agree, we can offer them, भाई या तो ले ऑफ करेंगे, नहीं तो सैलरी कम करेंगे, जब ठीक हो जाएगा पैसे फिर दे देंगे। So first thing is you have to build the trust between management and employees. आपका लाइफस्टाइल तो चेंज होगा नहीं। You run in your go in your Mercedes and you're doing the way you have been doing in the past, and you want me, the lowly paid, to take a salary cut, उसमें तकलीफ होगी। Are you clear about it? A small example. One of my client, he was in great difficulty. I'm not talking 10 years back. He had a Mercedes. One day I saw the Mercedes parked in front of the office. I found out whose Mercedes. It is the owner. So I went across to him. I said, even if you sell Mercedes, not much money will come. But please don't come in this car. It evokes psychological negative feelings. कि हमारी तनख्वाह टाइम से नहीं मिलती और he is coming in a Mercedes. Are you clear about it?
Right.
People should see that you are also adopting, you are also tightening the belt. They must see it. And they must, it should not be a show off. So it is possible to turn around. I'm still saying it is possible to turn around any company. I'm not talking of one company. My GSPL had a huge problem. Today, their sales in the month of April and May are higher than corresponding period of last year. Forget corresponding period of last year. They are higher than March in lockdown.
Okay.
That may be the only company in the steel industry, the entire world, whose performance today is better than 1 year back. So what I'm trying to share with you is, because now I'm getting that confidence, choti company or badi company, I find it very, I mean, it's no brainer. In fact, problem hoti hai, jitni badi company ho, they got a big ego. Small companies are very good. They know we have no choice. Nobody is going to give us a loan.
So what now in a scenario where there is no clarity on when demand will kick in? How does the big guy and the small guy, how does he kind of ride this period of uncertainty?
Tell me the vegetable seller, वो बेचारे को किसी ने गारंटी दी है कि जिंदगी उसकी चलेगी? आज माल बिका है, कल नहीं बिकेगा, वो कैसे मैनेज करता है? पहले ये बताओ। कोविड-19 और नो कोविड-19, उसके तो हर तीसरे दिन कोई ना कोई पंगा हुआ पड़ा रहता है, वो कैसे मैनेज करता है यार, ये बता।
Because the assumption is that he is dealing in a business, let's say, of essentials. So there is, and there is this whole thing that you will outgo and there will be certain amount of demand. Like in other businesses, that's not the case, right?
Assume you have inherited a business as it is today. Now you are told the entire plus and minuses are given to you, and you are a fresh entrepreneur. We have given you a zero money, plus with all its liabilities वगैरह सब तुमको दे दी. If there was a new person at the head, what are the chances he will say, no, I can't do, I'll run off, this can't be saved? Or people would say, देखते, what do you think?
देखते would be the most probable.
तो यार ऐसा है, एक अपॉर्चुनिटी जाती है तो दूसरी आती है. The assumption that the cake size is limited is wrong.
So I have a question from Harnil Oza, the founder and CEO of Hyperlink Infosystem. His question is, how financial management can help businesses after this tough situation to gain more profit?
Now, an important parameter is, irrespective, any product or service is sold to anybody else in the entire world. What are we saying? Take my product, take my service. My explicit or implicit promise is that through my association, your goal units, which I'm assuming is to make money in the form of cash, will go up. That's an assumption. Now, today, the people who are in the service sector, when they go and offer a service, they have no clue how the profit or cash of the customer will go up. They must learn that. For example, Keshav, if I were to offer something to Outlook, anything to Outlook, unless I can prove it to you that with my help, your circulation and eventually your cash in the bank will go up, how will you decide how much to pay me? The only possibility is some words of mouth and what are the alternatives. But any seller, if he can say, you take my help here, it is likely that your cash will go up by X amount, and which the customer is ready to accept. Yes, if this happens, then this will happen. Now you have a much better chance of both getting a deal and getting a good price also. I've done it for last 20 years. My standard formula has been, I'll increase your profit. In fact, I used to say double the profit, and I want 20% of that. 20% increase in the profit. I told you that I keep 20 years reserve money right in the beginning. How, if I can't make money for myself, then I'm a quack telling others how to make more money. So I'm very clear. I will make money for myself as well as for you. And I will charge a big chunk. I'm not come loose change. But I'm ready. I'm ready to link my compensation to actual results achieved.
Right. Question is from Mukul Vashisht, Director of RR Solution. His question is, how can I increase my value proposition to boost my sales?
Now, the correct way of doing is, we have RR Solutions has to solve a problem which increases the bottom line or the goal units of its customers in such a way that the competitors cannot offer. Now, corporate gifting, now what is so special about them which others cannot, and how does it solve the pain of the customer? So first they have to know what are the pains customers have with corporate gifting. They must find some problem. Like corporate giftings. Maybe they supply direct to the customers. Its customer gives them the addresses to it where it has to be sent, etc. Does it reach in a proper packaging? Does it reach the proper address? Does it reach at the right time in case they are supplying directly? In case they are not, let's say they are supplying direct to its customers, who in turn is giving to other customers, their customers. Then they'll have to look at it, go and look at it, what are the pain points its customer is having managing the same. I'm sure there'll be a problem. Sometimes the right packaging material is not available. What can they do so they don't have to do too much of effort and eliminate its problem and it's achieving the direct result? So that is the way it will have to do that. But in reality, I'll take it a broader question. Basically, keeping the fixed cost the same, how do I increase my contribution or throughput? This is net sale minus truly variable cost. Frankly, what they should look at it are solutions for various products for various customers. They will see the contribution percentage, which is contribution divided by the selling price, will be different. Now, is it possible that how can they increase the sales of those items where the contribution is much higher? So what can happen within the same sales quantity or value, they can increase their contribution. So that's the real question they should be asking. In my view, there are a whole way I can give them some what you call direction. It's called creating a mafia offer. There is a book by Dr. Eli Goldratt. It's called It's Not Luck or Gold 2. He should read that book. It will give him a lot of ideas how to create a compelling proposition to its customers to buy more from him.
On that positive note, it was a pleasure hosting Mr. Ravi Gilani, and as usual, it was free and frank conversations, and there is, I think, more takeaways for just about every businessman to really implement that. Thank you very much, Ravi, and hope to see you soon, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Keshav. All the very best. Thank you. Bye-bye.